And as I've raised, or my wife and I have raised our kids, I'll give her more of the credit than me. We give examples of people that make choices, both good and bad. You can point to choices that people make that was a great choice, and then you can point to those that you say, boy, that was a really bad choice. A good person who just made a really bad choice. And hopefully they picked themselves up and moved on. So, and just kind of thinking through today's show, I've just thought back to a number of those people that I know, and everyday people who made fundamental choices to affect their lives, and stuck with them, and have good lives. And again, I think that's what when Steve said we're going to talk about choices today, and would I listen to the last week's show, which I have. I think it's just a great subject, and there's inspiration everywhere. There's inspiration maybe from this show for people listening. There's inspiration in the biographies of great men and women, and there's just inspiration everywhere. There's inspiration in the Bible. So reading and learning about choices can fundamentally affect your life. This is not an academic subject. This is real life.
That's beautiful. I want to share a compliment. I'm very free with compliments, by the way, that are sincere and from the heart. A lot of people say I am too nice to people. No, not that many people say that, I guess. But I want to give Dave a compliment. I've got a proverb here that applies to Dave. Proverb 27. A righteous man who walks in his integrity, how blessed are his sons after him. Dave and his wife Janie have two amazing sons, and they are as fine young men that I've ever come across. And you've all heard an expression: the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And Dave has passed on some absolutely wonderful character traits to his sons, and they share a lot of his wisdom. So Dave, congratulations on being such a fine father.
Well, thank you, Stephen. I'll share the compliment back. I know your boys, have met your boys, and have known them for years, and they're again wonderful young men who are doing the same thing, finding their path forward. So, how would you like to proceed? I mean, Steve, it's your show. I've got a bunch of thoughts. A couple stories literally jump to mind around choices. And so one of my best friends, who I respect as much as anybody, is an interesting case. He's again about my age, so a little bit less than 60. African American, raised by his grandparents, very modest means, in Atlanta, and has an older brother who's slightly older than him, a year or so older. And they went fundamentally different directions in their lives. And Mike is my friend. And I asked Mike, what was it, that caused you to go this direction and your brother to go that direction? And Mike said, as a young man, he saw men and women wearing uniforms. He said that impacted him. He saw those as symbols of a decent life, of a good life, of whatever. And he's a very active member of his church. And that simple image, that symbol, caused him to go down a path where it led him to join junior ROTC, and then he ended up going to, I think he went to Georgia Tech. He's an engineering degree at Georgia Tech, which is obviously a very fine school. And then he got out and went into the Marine Corps as an officer. He served 4 years as an officer in the Marine Corps, and then he got out and got his JD MBA, his Juris Doctorate, and his Master's of Business from the University of Virginia, and he just kept going on and on and on. And he's had a very successful life. Now he's had failures and setbacks, as we all have. And his brother went a very different path and made some decisions early on, and had a very, very different life. And I don't know much about his brother. I'm sure he's a fine person. And that's, to me, and again, because they both came from the same setting. They both were raised by the same set of grandparents, and very, very fundamental decisions changed their lives. And the nice thing about decisions, and this goes back to this your point, Steve, about mistakes and errors and all that, is everybody makes them. We all do. Some people never get over them, and they carry them along as baggage. Other people accept them and say, yep, messed up there. I learned something, and I'm now going to go forward. I'm going to make a new set of decisions. And there's no one that's walked on this earth, and I'm not a biblical scholar, so maybe Jesus falls into this one category, or Muhammad or Buddha or somebody, but there's nobody that walks on this earth who hasn't made mistakes. Many, many, many mistakes. We all do. Hopefully, the healthier you are, the more you move on from them. You accept the learnings, and you accept the lesson you were meant to learn, and you make a better decision going forward, and try not to make the same one twice.
That's a lot of good reflections there. You know, you make me think. One of the things that I've been dealing with over the course of Right Thinking Foundation's 5.5 years going in and out of correctional facilities, in my life also, it's that we meet a lot of people that have different beliefs. A lot of people have different beliefs in their faith. And, religious freedom on my July the 4th celebration show, I gave a little history, and I talked about how that was the prime reason why our original 13 colonies, I think almost every one of them was for religious freedom, except for Georgia, which was a penal colony. But, we're a very accepting, tolerant society here. So I just want to establish something here. In my program in the very beginning, when I went into prisons, it was Powhatan Correctional, one of the oldest correctional facilities in the state of Virginia. It was closed about 2 years ago, and I had a lot of wonderful experiences there where I really got into working with the population of returning citizens. I was talking one day there, and I referenced the Youngbloods, a 1967 song that just came out while I was talking. It just sort of, come on, people, now smile on your brother, everybody get together, try to love one another right now. Love is a universal thing, and what I'm here to tell you is that I've established this, and I want to repeat it because for those of you that are listening to the show, that some of you might not share the same testimony that I share, I want you to know this, and this is what I've done for 5.5 years while I'm in prisons. I love everybody. I love Venetians, Martians, Neptunians. I want to go all the way out to the universals there. And then when you come in, I love everybody on this planet. I love everybody. Name every color you want to. But what I'm trying to tell you is I love every religion. So please do not be offended. The universal truths that I had a pastor heard one of my shows, and as much as I quote Bible scripture, he said, "Well, you use the term universal truths," and that offended a pastor. Well, I'm sorry, Pastor. These are universal truths. Loving your brother, serving others. It doesn't matter what persuasion you are. That's a good way to go. And if I reference biblical references, I could just as easily reference other things from other religions that I've studied. I studied Zen Buddhism and many other forms while I was in college, and I love world religions. But religion is no more than just trying to find a way to approach this life. That's kind of what religions are all about. So, Dave, I just wanted to throw that in because sometimes I feel like some of our listeners, they might be, and what you said was correct. We're here for everybody. So no matter who you are, I want to try to help make your life better by getting you unstuck. Now, Dave, when I talked on the show on Choices, it's been a couple weeks ago when this is going to air, Viktor Frankl is one of the greatest people that's ever gotten into the subject of choices. And his most powerful quote on Choices is, "The last of the human freedoms is to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances." People listen to Viktor Frankl because he went through the most horrific experiences that I think anybody on the face of this earth could go through. The Nazi concentration camps where everybody died in his family but his sister, his wife, a brother, his parents. And he suffered. But he learned a lot about the meaning of life, and he's passing on to others. What'd you think about Viktor Frankl? Are you much familiar with Viktor Frankl?
Yeah, a little bit. Sure. Powerful. I think those are incredibly powerful thoughts. It really made me think about this notion of optimism versus pessimism. And you really can, I find this interesting. People that are, quote, pessimists say, no, I'm not a pessimist, I'm a realist. This is my own personal feeling, I think that's bunk. Optimists are realist as well. They just see the world and believe that you can achieve things. And an optimist sees as many roadblocks and stumbles, possibilities. As a pessimist, they just choose to kind of go that way. And my experience, Frankl's insights from living through the concentration camps and all that I think is just remarkable insights. And I'm thinking about I can't remember who the quote was, but I really enjoyed it. Maybe it was Churchill. Someone said to Churchill, "You seem to be an optimist or an eternal optimist." And his comment was basically, yeah, there doesn't seem to be any logic in anything else. I mean, that's the only way to live. And similar to that, his comment was, if after, the end of the day, my optimism was misguided. 30 years later, I was optimistic that something good would happen, and 30 years later, nothing good happened. His comment was basic, well, at least I had 30 years of feeling good, as opposed to 30 years of feeling bad.
Yeah, at least you got out of the boat.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think Frankl's insights are just something we can all learn from. They're remarkable.
Oh gosh, and going over the quotes that I was trying to present on choices, my favorite one, and a couple of people said, yeah, that's probably just one of the best ones that you did, Steve, was Henry Ford. If you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. That is so profound. I mean, think about what Viktor Frankl says. That we have a choice to have our own attitude in any circumstance, to control our attitude. Henry Ford says, if your attitude towards something is that you're going to fail, then you probably are going to fail. But if your attitude is that you're going to succeed, then you probably are going to succeed. So, what's wonderful about this field of motivation and getting people encouraged by giving them examples of historical figures that have done well and persevered and overcome obstacles, they're good stories. But I'm always coming back to ground zero, where somebody is all pumped up, gets all excited, and then they go out, and then they get beat to death, knocked down, turned down, rejected, and they're like, I tried. So Dave, let me give you that one. That's one of my themes. I'm 24 or 5 shows out now, but that's one of the themes that I'm always trying to get to, is I got a heart for people that are the downtrodden, that just lost their confidence. You met Johnny. For those of you listening, we have a friend, Johnny Thomas, that's a man that I met at the YMCA that came to me because I gave him a Napoleon Hill book, Outwitting the Devil, and it changed his life. And I interviewed him on a show. Go back and see the interview with Johnny Thomas. Dave and Johnny and I were at a coffee shop in downtown Norfolk where I introduced Dave to Johnny. And Johnny is an impressive guy, but he acknowledged that he had lost his spark. He was like a recluse. He didn't work for a year. Well, he's working for 3 months now, making good money, paid back a loan or two that I helped him with to get some clothes and to buy a computer. And I'm just so proud of Johnny. So people that have lost their spark, Dave, all this wonderful, positive, upbeat motivation, I think I can answer part of my question, that I want you to expand on it and tell some more stories. I'll go silent for a while here because I want to share you more than I'm allowing you to speak right now. I apologize for that. What it is this. I've learned something in the last couple months by doing this show. I've always been a little not sure of how I can really get people to take action even when they're motivated and stimulated. Well, I think it takes a whole network of people here.